The nobleman who hated touch, except hers. He never let anyone touch him. Then one night, he held her hand and refused to let go. Earl Adrian Blackmoor had not allowed another human hand on his skin for 6 years. Not a handshake, not a physician's examination, not a servant adjusting his collar, not even the brush of a sleeve in a crowded hall. In the capital, people called him cold. In the countryside, they called him cursed. In drawing rooms, women whispered that the Earl of Blackmoor was handsome enough to ruin a life and cruel enough to enjoy it. Adrian let them whisper. Whispers were easier than questions. Questions wanted answers, and answers had a way of opening old wounds. Blackmoor Hall stood on a cliff above the grey northern sea, far from the royal court and farther still from warmth. Its windows were narrow, its gates were iron, its corridors smelled of salt, old wood, and rain. No one touched the Earl in that house. Everyone knew the rule. Stand back, do not reach, do not help unless ordered. If he fell, call for his cane and wait. If he bled, leave bandages on the table. If fever took him, place medicine outside the door and pray he had enough strength to lift the cup himself. The rule was not cruelty. Not at first. It was survival. But over the years, survival had hardened into habit, and habit had become a wall, so high even Adrian no longer knew what lived behind it. Then the war ended, and he came home broken in a new way. The royal army returned from the Ashen Coast in early winter. The war had lasted 9 months and buried more young men than any king would ever admit in a speech. Adrian survived because he always survived. A blade had torn through his left side. Shrapnel had lodged near his ribs. Fever had eaten 10 pounds from his frame. He walked with pain now, though he hid it well enough to frighten anyone who dared. Notice, his physician lasted 3 days. The second lasted 1. The third refused to enter the room after Adrian threw a silver basin at the wall and told him that, if he laid one hand on him, the king could find another doctor to bury. By the end of the week, the household steward sent for Helena Ward. Helena was not a court physician. She had no title, no noble blood, no fashionable address in the capital. She was the daughter of a village surgeon, and the battlefield nurse would taught her that pain spoke more honestly than most men. She had spent the war in crowded medical tents, stitching soldiers by candlelight, holding dying boys while they called for mothers who would never reach them. She was 26 years old, calm-eyed, quiet-voiced, practical enough to frighten fools. When the carriage from Blackmoor Hall arrived at her cottage, Helena almost refused. Everyone knew the Earl of Blackmoor. Everyone knew he hated being touched. Everyone knew he had dismissed every healer the king sent. But the steward placed 3 letters on her table, one from the Royal Medical Council, one from her old commander, one from the Village Orphan Fund, confirming a donation large enough to feed every child under its care through winter if Helena accepted the post for 1 month. Helena read the last letter twice. Then she looked at the steward. Your master purchases obedience very elegantly. The steward, Mr. Bell, had the decency to look uncomfortable. My lady, he's not an easy patient. I am not an easy healer. Good, the old man said softly. Then perhaps you will survive each other. Helena arrived at Blackmoor Hall during a storm. Rain lashed the carriage windows. Wind screamed over the cliffs. The sea below struck the rocks with a sound like an army trying to break down the world. The hall doors opened before she knocked. Mr. Bell met her in the entrance. He was thin, elderly, and tired in the way servants became when they had spent years caring for a man who refused to admit he needed care. Miss Ward, he said, thank you for coming. I have not done anything yet. You came. In this house, that is something. Helena looked around. Black marble floors, dark portraits, a staircase wide enough for royal processions and cold enough for ghosts. No flowers, no music, no visible life except the anxious eyes of servants pretending not to watch from side corridors. This house needs lamps, she said. Mr. Bell blinked. I beg your pardon. And probably laughter. But lamps first. For the first time, the old steward nearly smiled. He led her upstairs. The Earl's chamber was at the end of the west wing, behind double doors carved, with thorned vines. A warning, perhaps. Mr. Bell knocked. No answer. He looked at Helena. She looked back. Does he usually answer? Rarely. Then why knock? Hope. Helena sighed, stepped forward, and opened the door. The room beyond was large, dark, and hot. Too hot. A fire burned high in the hearth. Curtains were drawn. Medicine bottles lined the table beside the bed, untouched. A tray of food sat cold near the window. Adrian Blackmoor stood near the far wall, one hand braced against a bookshelf. His white shirt half buttoned and damp with sweat. He was taller than Helena expected. Leaner too, as if pain had carved him down to bone, muscle, and will. His dark hair fell loosely around his face. His skin was pale beneath the fever. A bandage circled his ribs, stained through at one side. His eyes were blue. Not soft blue, winter blue. The kind of blue that made people step carefully. He looked at Helena as if she were an intruder in his grave. No. Helena stopped 3 steps inside the room. Good evening to you too, Mr. Bell winced behind her. Adrian's gaze moved from her face to her medical bag. I dismissed the last one. I am sure he remembers. I will dismiss you too. Probably. But I have just arrived, and the rain is dramatic, so I would prefer you delay the performance. His eyes narrowed. Helena walked to the table and set down her bag. Not near him. Not reaching. Not approaching. She looked at the untouched medicine. Have you taken any of this? No. Because you distrust medicine, or because you enjoy infection. Mr. Bell made a strangled sound. Adrian stared at her. You speak boldly for a woman standing in my room without permission. Helena turned to him. You were standing with an open wound and a fever strong enough to cook an egg. I am the least of your problems. For a moment, silence held. Then Adrian said, very softly, leave. The word had power in it. A lifetime of command. Servants would have obeyed instantly. Physicians would have bowed and retreated. Helena looked at his shaking hand on the bookshelf, then at his face. No. The room went colder. Despite the fire, Adrian stepped away from the shelf, too fast. Pain struck him. His breath caught. He hid it well. Not well enough. Helena did not move toward him. She only said, if you fall, I will not catch you without permission. That made him pause. His eyes sharpened. I beg your pardon. I said I will not touch you without permission. Something changed in his face. Not trust. Never that. Suspicion disturbed by surprise. Helena continued, you may throw me out. You may bleed through your bandage. You may choose pride over survival. But if I remain, I will tell you before I move, ask before I touch, and stop when you say stop. Adrian looked at her for a long moment, then gave a humorless laugh. Another cent from the king's mercy chest. No, I charge fees. Mr. Bell looked at the floor very intently. Adrian's mouth moved. Almost. Not a smile. A crack in the marble. Then the crack vanished. I do not need you. Helena nodded toward his side. Your shirt disagrees. His hand tightened. For 1 second, he looked younger. Not softer. Only trapped. Leave the medicine, he said. I will leave the medicine after I check whether that wound is poisoned, infected, or simply offended by your personality. Miss Ward, that is my name. Do not test me. Helena met his eyes. My lord, wounded men have threatened me in 7 languages. Unless you plan to improve the material, sit down. Mr. Bell looked as if he had discovered religion. Adrian stared at her. Then, slowly, perhaps because standing had become more humiliating than sitting, he lowered himself into the chair near the hearth. His jaw clenched through the movement. Helena pretended not to notice. That was the first mercy she gave him. She opened her bag and placed clean cloth, boiled instruments, salve, and a bottle of spirits on the table. Then she pulled a chair several feet away and sat down. Adrian frowned. What are you doing? Waiting. For what? For you to decide if you want to live badly enough to let me change the bandage. His gaze was sharp enough to cut. Helena folded her hands in her lap. Outside, thunder rolled over the sea. Inside, the fire snapped and breathed. After a long silence, Adrian said, "You may look. Look is not touch. I know." Then unbutton the shirt. His expression went glacial. Helena lifted one eyebrow. "I can leave and let you bleed with dignity. I despise you already." "Excellent. Strong feelings often indicate circulation." Adrian unbuttoned the rest of his shirt with stiff fingers. He did not remove it. He opened it enough to reveal the bandage around his ribs. Helena stood slowly. "I am coming closer." His entire body changed. Not much. Enough. Shoulders tight. Breath controlled. Hand curled around the arm of the chair. A soldier bracing for impact. Helena stopped 2 steps away. "Still all right." His eyes flicked to hers. "Yes, I will cut the old bandage. I will not touch your skin yet." His mouth tightened at the word "yet," but he nodded. Helena cut the cloth. The wound beneath was angry, swollen, and badly cleaned. She understood immediately why the fever had worsened. "This needs proper treatment," I gathered. "Did you gather that before or after frightening away 3 physicians?" "Before the second." Despite herself, Helena almost smiled. Almost. She reached for clean cloth. "I need to touch the skin near the wound." "No." The word came fast. Too fast. Helena stilled. "All right." Adrian looked at her as if waiting for argument. She gave none. She soaked the cloth in spirits, placed it on the table beside him, and stepped back. "You can clean the edge yourself. I will guide you." He stared at the cloth. Pain flickered across his face. Not physical. Something older. But he took it. His hand trembled once as he pressed it to the wound. His breath hissed. Helena kept her voice steady. "Good. Hold there. Count with me." "I do not need counting." "Everyone needs counting when alcohol meets infected flesh." I said no. "Then breathe with me instead." His glare could have frozen spring. Helena inhaled slowly. Once. Then out. Again. Adrian did not follow at first. Then, barely, he did. His breathing slowed. Not because he trusted her. Because her voice gave pain something to hold. When the wound was clean enough, she guided him through the salve and fresh bandage. It took twice as long as it should have. By the end, sweat dampened his hair. Helena did not offer to wipe it away. She wanted to. That surprised her. He looked exhausted, furious, alive. She packed her instruments. "The wound is infected, but not beyond saving. You need rest, broth, and medicine every 6 hours. I will decide what I need." "No, your infection will decide. I am simply translating." Adrian leaned back, eyes closing briefly. "A mistake. Weakness." He forced them open at once. Helena saw and looked away. "Second mercy. I will return at midnight," she said. "No. Yes. I forbid it. I respect your dedication to poor decisions." His eyes opened fully. "Miss Ward, my lord, if you touch me without permission, I will have you removed." Helena lifted her bag. "If you stop breathing without permission, I will ignore that instruction." She left before he could answer. Behind her, in the corridor, "Mr. Bell whispered, "You are either very brave or entirely mad." Helena looked back at the closed door. Most healers are both. For the first week, Adrian hated her. That was his word for it. Hate was clean. Hate had edges. Hate did not tremble. He hated the sound of her knock because it came exactly on time. He hated the way she waited outside the door until he answered. He hated that she asked permission before entering rooms that belonged to him. He hated that she never touched him unless he allowed it. He hated that she remembered what he allowed. Bandage edge, wrist pulse over cloth only, shoulder brace through fabric he stood to quickly. Never bare skin without warning, never from behind, never while he slept. She learned his rules faster than anyone had ever learned anything about him. That made her dangerous. On the 8th night, fever returned hard. Adrian woke from a nightmare with the room spinning. The fire burned low, and his body trapped between heat and ice. He reached for the bell pull. Missed. Pain tore through his side. He nearly fell from the bed. The door opened before he hit the floor. Helena entered wearing a grey robe over her dress, hair braided loosely down her back, medical bag in hand. She must have been sleeping in the adjoining room. He had ordered that room empty. Of course, she had ignored him. "You rang?" she asked. "No. You attempted to ring. Leave. You are on the floor." I noticed. She came closer, then stopped. "May I help you sit up?" "No." "All right." The word carried no offense, no impatience. That was worse. Adrian pressed one hand to the carpet and tried to rise. His vision went white. He bit back a sound. Helena knelt several feet away. "My lord, pride is not load-bearing." He almost laughed. The pain punished him for it. He lowered his head. "Do not touch me." "I won't." But her voice shifted. Softer, lower. "Adrian, look at me." His head lifted before he could stop himself. No one used his name. Not in that tone. Not without wanting something. Helena's face was calm in the dim light. "You are fevered. You are in pain. Your body thinks it is back on the battlefield. It is not. You are in Blackmoor Hall. The rain has stopped. The fire is low. The floor is cold. I am 6 feet away." His breathing shook. She continued. "You can hate me later. Right now, breathe. I do not hate you." The words slipped out before he could stop them. Silence. Even fever could not excuse that. Helena's expression did not change, but something in her eyes softened. "Good," she said. "That would be inefficient." He let out a broken breath. Then another. "May I move closer?" His hands curled. "No." That was the answer. The only safe answer. But the floor was cold, and the fever was eating him alive, and her voice was the only thing in the room that did not feel like an enemy. "Yes." She moved 1 foot closer, then stopped. "Here." He nodded. She moved again. Slowly. Nothing sudden. When she was close enough to reach him, she held out one hand. Palm open. Not grabbing. Not commanding. "May I support your arm over fabric?" His pulse hammered. Old memory rose. A woman's arms around him. Perfume. Warm lips at his ear. Then fire in his blood. Poison entering through a needle hidden beneath a bracelet. Trust turning venomous inside an embrace. Adrian's stomach twisted. He closed his eyes. "No." Helena withdrew her hand immediately. "Then I will sit here." She sat on the floor beside him. Not touching. Only there. The absurdity of it pierced the fever. "You are sitting on the floor. So are you. I am injured. I am companionable. That is not a medical term. It should be." He stared at her. Her robe's sleeve had slipped slightly, revealing a small scar across her wrist. Old. Surgical, perhaps. Not elegant. Real. "Why do you do this?" he asked. "Healing. Staying." She looked toward the fire. "Because I know what it feels like when people decide difficult means disposable." The answer was too honest for the hour. He had no defense against it. She reached for the cup on the low table, poured water, and placed it near his hand. Not into his hand. Near it. Always choice. Adrian looked at the cup, then at her. His voice was rough. "Helena, yes, I cannot get up. I know. I need help. I know." The words tasted like blood. "May I hold your sleeve?" Her eyes met his. Something moved through her face. Not triumph. Not pity. Something warmer. "Yes." She shifted closer and offered her sleeve. Adrian gripped the fabric near her wrist. Not her skin. Only fabric. Still. The contact nearly broke him. Helena steadied her arm while he used her as leverage. It was awkward. Painful. Slow. But he made it back to the bed. When he finally lay against the pillows, breathless and sweating, he realized he had not let go. His fingers still gripped her sleeve. Helena looked at his hand. So did he. He released her as if burned. "Sorry." The word left him in a whisper. He never apologized. Not because he believed himself blameless, because apology invited closeness, and closeness invited danger. Helena only said, "No harm done." But her hand, the one he had gripped through the sleeve, rested on the blanket for a moment before she moved away, as if she too had felt something strange pass between them. By the second week, Adrian stopped ordering her to leave. By the third, he began waiting for her voice. She read medical notes aloud while preparing his bandages. Then, when he complained that royal surgeons wrote like men paid by the unnecessary word, she began reading from books instead. Not poetry. He refused poetry. She read travel accounts, shipwreck records, a ridiculous chapter about a naturalist who believed swans held grudges. Adrian listened with his eyes closed while she changed dressings with his permission and hands steady enough to make pain bearable. Her touch was not magic. That would have been easier to dismiss. Her touch did not erase the wound. It did not turn him gentle. It did not undo 6 years of terror. But it did something worse. It gave his body evidence that touch could arrive without harm. The first time her bare fingers brushed his ribs, he flinched so hard she stopped. Immediately. Too much. He could not speak. She withdrew. He hated the loss of warmth. That frightened him more than the touch. No, he said. She looked at him carefully. No. He swallowed. Not too much. I was surprised. Do you want me to continue? No one had ever asked him that with such patience. He nodded once. She continued. Her fingertips moved near the wound. Careful. Clinical. Yet Adrian felt every point of contact as if his skin had been asleep 4 years. Unwoken all at once. His hand closed around the bedsheet. Helena noticed. Pain. No. Fear. His jaw tightened. He could have lied. He wanted to. But her hands were on him, gentle and honest, and lying seemed like insulting the moment. Yes, she nodded. Thank you for telling me. That was all. No pity. No drama. No attempt to comfort him beyond what he had allowed. Adrian stared at the ceiling while his throat tightened. Outside the windows, the sea wind moved softly. For the first time in 6 years, being touched did not feel like returning to the night that ruined him. It felt like standing at the edge of a different door. He was not ready to open it, but he had stopped pretending it was not there. The household noticed before Adrian did. Servants began lighting more lamps because Helena asked and Adrian did not. Countermand. Curtains opened. Meals improved. Fresh flowers appeared in the lower hall. Helena said the entire house looked like it had been upholstered by a widow with a grudge against joy. Mr. Bell laughed so hard he had to pretend it was a cough. Adrian heard the laugh from the study. He did not punish anyone. That was how the servants knew the world had shifted. One afternoon, Helena found Adrian attempting to walk the West Gallery alone. He was halfway down the corridor, pale with pain, one hand on the wall. His cane lay behind him, clearly thrown. She stopped at the far end. I assume the cane insulted your ancestors. Adrian did not turn. It slipped. It is 12 feet behind you. It slipped dramatically. She approached slowly. Do you want help? No. Do you want an audience for your stubbornness? No. Then I will admire the portraits. She stopped beside an enormous painting of a dead Blackmoor lord wearing a powdered wig and an expression of constipation. Adrian saw her looking. That is my great-grandfather. My condolences. Despite the pain, his mouth curved. Helena saw it. He saw her see it. The smile vanished, but too late. She walked beside him without touching. Step by step. Halfway down the gallery, his strength failed. His knee buckled. Helena moved instinctively, then stopped herself. He caught the wall, breathing hard. Adrian, I am fine. You are not. I said I am fine. She stood in front of him then. Not close enough to trap. Close enough to make him meet her eyes. May I offer my arm? No. All right. He hated that. He hated that she accepted his refusal so easily, because it left him alone with the consequences. Another step. Pain flashed. This time he swore. Helena said nothing. He looked at her. Her arm remained at her side. Available, but not offered again. Damn you, he muttered. Frequently attempted. Never successfully. He let out a rough breath. Your arm. She lifted it. He took her forearm over the fabric of her sleeve. Then, after 2 steps, his grip shifted. His fingers touched the inside of her wrist. Bare skin. Both of them felt it. Helena did not look down. Neither did he. But his grip did not move back to fabric. Her skin was warm, human, steady. He walked the rest of the gallery, holding her wrist. When they reached the chair near the window, he sat slowly, still holding her. She waited. His thumb rested near her pulse. He could feel her heartbeat, faster than normal, not frightened, affected. The realization moved through him like heat. Helena looked at their hands. Adrian. He released her. Not because he wanted to. Because wanting had become visible. Forgive me. For what? He did not know how to answer. For touching you. For wanting to keep touching you. For being a ruined man who had mistaken your kindness for something I could survive without wanting more. Instead, he said, for forgetting. Helena held his gaze. I did not mind. The corridor seemed to narrow. He looked at her mouth. Only for a second. Enough. Helena saw. Her breath changed. Then Mr. Bell appeared at the far end of the gallery, carrying letters. And the moment broke. Like glass. That night, Adrian dreamed of Celeste. He had avoided her name for 6 years. But dreams had no manners. Lady Celeste Marwyn had been the first woman he loved. The only woman before Helena whose touch had once felt safe. She was beautiful, clever, and tragic in all the ways young men mistake for depth. She loved red wine, white roses, and secrets. She wore a silver bracelet with a hidden clasp. He remembered the final night too clearly. The royal winter ball. Celeste crying in the garden, her arms around his neck, her mouth near his ear. I had no choice, Adrian. Forgive me. Then the sting between his shoulder blades. A needle. A dose of slow venom. Not enough to kill quickly. Enough to make him collapse in front of half the court the next morning. Enough to make him look unstable. Enough to clear the path for his cousin's claim to the Blackmoor estate. Adrian survived. Celeste vanished. His cousin died in a duel 2 months later. Unrelated officially, though Adrian never believed it. But the poison remained in his blood for weeks. Every touch hurt afterward. Every hand felt like threat. Every embrace became a memory of betrayal dressed as tenderness. When he woke from the dream, he was not in the garden. He was in his bed. His body was healed enough to sit, but his mind had not returned with him. The room was dark, the air thick, his heart hammered. A hand touched his shoulder. He struck before seeing. Helena gasped. The lamp crashed. The room went black. Adrian froze. Horror cut through the panic. Helena. She said nothing. He heard her breathing near the bed. Shallow. Controlled. Too controlled. The door opened. Mr. Bell rushed in with a candle. Light returned. Helena stood beside the bed. One hand pressed to her cheek. A red mark spread beneath her eye. Adrian could not breathe. No, he whispered. She lifted her other hand toward Mr. Bell. I am all right. You are not, Adrian said. His voice sounded dead. Helena looked at him. Not afraid. That almost made it worse. Adrian, you were dreaming. I hit you. Yes. The word struck harder, because she did not soften it. He swung his legs from the bed and stood too quickly. Pain tore through his side. He barely felt it. Leave. Mr. Bell froze. Helena's expression changed. Adrian. Leave. She watched him. He could not bear her eyes. He had become the danger. Exactly as he had always feared. Please, he said. And the word broke. Leave. This time, she did. The next 3 days were worse than the first week. Adrian refused treatment, refused meals, locked his door. Helena did not force entry. She sent notes. Not emotional ones. Practical. Take the fever draft. The wound will reopen if you climb the stairs. Your pride does not sterilize bandages. On the 3rd evening, she stopped sending notes. That was when Adrian opened the door. She was in the library, packing medical instruments into her bag. He stood in the doorway. His face looked hollow. You are leaving. Yes. Pain moved through him so visibly that Helena had to grip the edge of the table. I see, he said. You do not. His eyes lifted. She closed the bag. I am leaving Blackmoor Hall tonight because the medical council needs me in the village for 3 days. There is a fever among the fishermen's children. He stared at her. Relief struck first. Then shame. Then fear. Because relief revealed too much. Oh, yes. Oh, he looked at the floor. I thought you were leaving because I hurt you. Helena said nothing. He forced himself to look at her cheek. The bruise had faded slightly, yellow at the edges now. His stomach turned. You should leave because I hurt you. That is not your decision. It was not intentional. No. But it was real. Yes. He closed his eyes. I am sorry. I know. The answer was quiet, but not easy. He opened his eyes. Helena walked closer, stopping a few feet away. I do not blame you for waking from a nightmare. You should. I blame you for trying to choose my response for me afterward. His brows drew together. You told me to leave. I did. Because I was dangerous. No. Because you were ashamed. That entered him precisely. She continued. Adrian, I know what fear looks like after war. I know what the body does before the mind returns. But if you decide your guilt means I must disappear, that is still control. Softer than cruelty, perhaps, but control all the same. He looked at her. No one had ever spoken to him so directly. No one who remained alive in his heart. What do you want from me? He asked. The truth. His laugh was empty. The truth is ugly. I have cleaned battlefield wounds. Try me. He swallowed. The name scraped its way out. Celeste. Helena waited. So he told her. Not beautifully. Not all at once. He told her about the woman with white roses in her hair, the hidden needle, the poison, the months of pain, the court gossip that made his suffering sound like madness, the physicians who held him down because he fought when they tried to treat him, the way every touch afterward felt like a trap closing. When he finished, the library was dark except for one lamp. Helena looked at him with grief in her eyes. Not pity. Grief. For him. For the man he had been before he turned his own body into a locked room. She poisoned you through an embrace, she said. Yes. And you decided no one would ever reach you that way again. His mouth tightened. I survived. Yes, Helena said. You survived. But survival became the room you never left. He looked away. That sounds like something people say when they want the wounded to be. Inspirational. No, I do not need you inspirational. I need you honest. He looked back at her. She stepped closer. May I touch your hand? Every part of him tensed. But he had told the truth. He did not want to retreat from it immediately. Yes. Helena held out her hand. He placed his in hers. Slowly. Bare skin to bare skin. No fever. No bandage. No medical reason. Just touch. Her fingers closed around his. A simple hold. His breath changed. The fear came. Of course it came. So did the memory. Celeste's arms. The needle. The poison. But Helena's hand stayed warm. Still. Present. This is not then, she said softly. His eyes burned. I know. Your body may not know yet. His hand tightened around hers. Not painfully. Desperately. As if letting go meant falling back 6 years. Helena's thumb moved over his knuckle. He closed his eyes. For the first time since he was poisoned, Adrian Blackmoor held a woman's hand and did not feel betrayed by his own need. Helena, he whispered. Yes, do not leave tonight. Her face softened. I have to. The children need me. Panic flared before he could control it. He gripped her hand harder. She looked down, then up. Adrian. He released her instantly, horror returning. Forgive me. I am not angry. I did not mean to hold you. I know. I just. He stopped. The sentence was humiliating, childish, true. Helena stepped closer and took his hand again herself. You are afraid I will not come back. His throat worked. Yes, I will come back in 3 days. You do not owe me that. No, I choose it. That word settled the panic. Not gone. Settled. He bowed his head over their joined hands. 3 days. Yes. When she left that night, Adrian stood at the window until the carriage lights vanished into rain. He did not sleep, but he did not lock the door. 3 days became a test neither of them had named. Helena tended fevered children in the village until her hands ached and her voice went rough from singing them through pain. Adrian sent supplies, then doctors, then his own carriage for families to pour to travel. He did not send demands. He did not summon her back. He sent one note. The lamps in the hall are now lit every evening. Mr. Bell says this is your fault. Helena read it after midnight and smiled despite exhaustion. She replied, Good. Tell Mr. Bell I accept responsibility. On the third night, she returned to Blackmoor Hall near dusk. Adrian was waiting outside the front doors in the rain. No coat, no gloves, no cane. Mr. Bell stood behind him looking deeply tired and deeply pleased. Helena stepped from the carriage. You will catch a fever. Adrian stared at her as if the sight of her had restored order to the world. You came back. I said I would. Yes. Rain darkened his hair. His face was pale, open in a way that made her chest hurt. She walked closer. Adrian, why are you standing in the rain? His voice was low. I wanted to meet you at the door. She stopped in front of him. So meet me. He looked at her hand, then at her face. May I? She understood. Her heart softened. Yes. He took her hand. Bare fingers, cold rain, warm skin beneath. He exhaled like a man setting down a weight he had carried too long. Then he did not let go. They walked inside hand in hand. The servants saw. No one spoke. But by supper, the whole house knew. The Earl had touched someone willingly, and the world had not ended. After that, touch entered slowly. A hand offered on the staircase, a palm against his shoulder while Helena checked his balance, her fingers at his wrist during a pain spell, his hand covering hers when nightmares threatened. Each contact became a lesson. Some days, Adrian did well. Some days, he flinched so violently he left the room. Helena let him. He always returned. That mattered. One evening, she found him in the music room. The room had been closed for years, like most beautiful things in Blackmoor Hall. Now the sheets had been removed, and moonlight touched the old piano. Adrian stood beside it. I did not know you played. Helena said, I do not. Then why are you here? My mother played. He looked at the keys. After she died, my father locked the room. After he died, I kept it locked. Habit is a loyal jailer. Helena entered quietly. Do you want me to leave? No. The answer came immediately. That still surprised them both. She stood beside him, leaving a careful space. Adrian looked at her hand. Do you always ask? When? Before leaving people alone. Only when I think alone might hurt. He laughed softly, not happily, but not coldly either. You see too much. So do you. You just pretend it is strategy. His mouth curved. For a moment, he looked almost young. Helena touched one piano key. A soft note rang through the room. Adrian went still. What was that? A key. His eyes moved to her. I know what a key is, Miss Ward. Good. Your recovery is progressing. Against his will, he smiled. She smiled back. The air changed. It had done that more often lately. A quiet warmth arriving without permission. Adrian stepped closer. Helena did not move away. His gaze dropped to her mouth. This time, he did not hide it quickly enough. Her breath caught. Adrian. He closed his eyes. I know. What do you know? That I want something I have no right to ask for. The honesty moved through her. She stepped closer. Ask anyway. His eyes opened. Hope appeared there, and fear with it. May I touch your face? Helena's voice softened. Yes. His hand rose slowly. So slowly, she felt every inch of the question. His fingertips brushed her cheek. Warm, unsteady, careful. She leaned into his touch. His breath caught. He looked at her as if she had handed him something sacred and breakable. Still all right? She asked. A rough laugh escaped him. That is my line. Answer it. Yes. His thumb moved once along her cheekbone. Helena reached up and covered his hand with hers. He did not flinch. Not this time. May I kiss you? He asked. Her heart beat hard. Yes. He bent slowly. The first touch of his mouth was barely there. A question made of breath and warmth. Helena answered by lifting her hand to his chest. She felt him tense beneath her palm, then soften. The kiss deepened. Not suddenly, not hungrily, tenderly at first, then with a need that had been starved for years and was terrified of becoming too much. Adrian's other hand hovered near her waist. Helena felt the restraint. She took his wrist gently and placed his hand at her side. You can hold me. His eyes opened against hers. Can I? Yes. His arms slid around her waist. The moment her body came closer to his, he trembled. Not from fear alone, from the shock of being allowed. Helena kissed him again. This time, he made a low sound that went through her like heat. When they parted, his forehead rested against hers. "I am afraid," he whispered. "I know. I do not want to hurt you." "Then keep asking. Keep listening." His hand tightened at her waist. "And if I fail, then you stop. You learn. You try again." His eyes closed. Helena touched his jaw. "Adrian, you are not poisoned anymore." He exhaled shakily. "No, but you are still healing." He opened his eyes. "So are you," he said. That silenced her. He had noticed. Of course he had. Helena, who never stayed in one place long. Helena, who healed others because stillness made her remember every soldier she could not save. Helena, who kept tenderness efficient because anything deeper might ask her what she needed. Her hand fell slightly. Adrian caught it. Gently. "May I hold your hand?" he asked. A smile touched her mouth. "You are already holding it." "Still." "Yes." He brought her fingers to his lips and kissed them. The gesture was small, old-fashioned, devastating. Helena looked away because tears threatened without reason, or perhaps with too many. The next morning, Lady Celeste Marwyn returned. She arrived in a white carriage with silver trim, dressed in morning lavender and looking exactly as a beautiful ghost should look. The entire household froze when her name was announced. Adrian was in the breakfast room with Helena, drinking tea because she had insisted coffee on an empty stomach was an act of war against the body. Mr. Bell entered, pale. "My lord, Lady Celeste Marwyn requests an audience." The cup in Adrian's hand cracked. Tea spilled across the table. Helena stood at once. Adrian did not move. His face had become empty. Too empty. The way men looked when pain became older than language. "Send her away," Helena said. Mr. Bell looked to Adrian. Adrian's voice came flat. "No, let her in." Helena turned to him. "Adrian." His gaze did not meet hers. "I need to see her." "No, you think you need to prove you are not afraid." His eyes lifted then. Sharp, wounded. "Do not heal me by command." The words struck. She stepped back. He regretted them immediately. But Celeste entered before he could speak again. She was beautiful. That was undeniable. Golden hair, pale skin, a graceful sadness that seemed arranged by candlelight even in morning. Her eyes moved from Adrian to Helena, then to their hands, which had been close on the table before the cup broke. Something small and ugly passed across her face. "Adrian," she said softly. His jaw tightened. "Lady Marwyn." She flinched delicately. "After all these years, must we be strangers?" Helena watched him. His hand was bleeding from the broken cup. He had not noticed. Celeste stepped forward. "I came because I heard you were injured in the war. I could not bear thinking you might die believing what you believe of me." Adrian said nothing. Celeste's eyes filled. "I was forced. Your cousin threatened my family. He made me carry the needle. I thought the poison would only make you sleep." Helena had heard enough lies to recognize one wrapped in expensive sorrow. Adrian looked as though every word entered him through old scars. "You vanished. I was ashamed. You let me think I had imagined your part. I was a coward. That part, at least, might have been true." Celeste moved closer. Too close. Helena saw Adrian's shoulders lock. "Do not," Helena said. Celeste looked at her. "I beg your pardon. He does not want you closer." Adrian's eyes flicked to Helena. Relief, anger, shame, all tangled. Celeste smiled politely. "And you are his healer. How intimate." Adrian's voice cut in. "Enough." Celeste turned back to him. "Adrian, please, let me explain. Let me touch your hand, and you will know I mean no harm." Helena's stomach turned. There it was. The old door. The old method. Celeste reached into her sleeve. Not much. A graceful movement. Too graceful. Helena moved before thought. She caught Celeste's wrist. A tiny silver needle slid from beneath the bracelet clasp. For 1 second, no one moved. Then Adrian stood. The chair fell behind him. Celeste's face changed. The sorrow vanished. In its place stood the woman who had survived 6 years by knowing beauty made people slow to suspect cruelty. Helena tightened her grip. "What is on the needle?" Celeste smiled. "Nothing meant for you." Adrian stared at the needle. The room tilted around him. Not again. God, not again. Helena's voice cut through the panic. Adrian, look at me. He did. She held Celeste's wrist in one hand, the needle visible, her eyes steady on him. This is now, she said. Not then. He breathed once. Then again. Mister. Bell and 2 guards rushed in. Celeste tried to twist free. Helena, who had once held down fevered soldiers twice her size, turned the woman's wrist with clinical precision and forced her to drop the bracelet. The guards seized Celeste. She stopped pretending entirely. You think she loves you? Celeste hissed at Adrian. She's a nurse with clever hands. You cling because she is the first woman who did not poison you quickly enough. Adrian flinched. Helena stepped forward. For the first time since entering Blackmoor Hall, her comm cracked. No, she said. He clings because you taught his body to fear tenderness. There is a difference. Celeste laughed. He was easy to ruin. Adrian went pale. Helena's voice turned cold. And you were easy to catch. Celeste's eyes flashed. The guards dragged her away. The bracelet was tested by noon. The needle contained a paralytic and a second poison, subtler than the first, enough to weaken Adrian and make a new claim possible over his estate if he were declared mentally unstable. Celeste had not come for apology. She had come to finish what she started. Adrian locked himself in the music room. Helena waited outside for 1 hour. Then 2. At the 3rd, she knocked. No answer. She opened the door. He stood by the window, one hand braced against the frame, face turned toward the sea. Leave, he said. No. His laugh was empty. Of course. She closed the door behind her. Do you want to be alone, or do you want to punish yourself with isolation? He turned. His eyes were raw. You could have died. So could you. She touched you. I touched her first. She could have poisoned you. She did not. His control cracked. She poisoned me. The words broke from him. Not cold. Not controlled. Wounded. Helena crossed the room. He stepped back. Do not. She stopped. His breathing was ragged. His hands shook. I thought I was healing, he said. You are. I froze. You recognized danger. I let you protect me. Yes. His face twisted. I am supposed to protect you. Is that a law? It is what a man should do. No, Helena said. A man should know when someone stands beside him, not beneath him. He looked at her. The words reached him slowly. She stepped closer. May I come nearer? His jaw tightened. Then he nodded. She moved until she stood before him. May I touch your hand? Yes. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers immediately. Too tight at first, then gentler when he realized. I hate that I needed you, he whispered. I know. I hate that I still feel her touch when I close my eyes. I know. I hate that I want yours to erase it. Helena's heart hurt. She lifted his hand and placed it against her cheek. His breath stopped. My touch will not erase what happened, she said. But it can give your body another truth. His fingers trembled against her skin. And what truth is that? That tenderness can return and not betray you. His eyes shone. He stepped closer then, and his other hand came to her waist. Not hesitant now. Needing. Still asking. But through the careful pressure of his palm, Helena leaned into him. That was answer enough. He kissed her with all the fear he could no longer carry alone. It was not soft at first. It was desperate. His mouth moved over hers as if he had been starving and hated himself for a hunger. Helena kissed him back, but when his hands tightened too much, she touched his chest. He stopped instantly. Too much. A little. Horror crossed his face. She cupped his jaw. Adrian, I did not say stop forever. I said a little. He breathed. Slowly. Then nodded. This time, he kissed her again with more care. Still deep. Still full of need. But listening. Learning. His hands settled at her waist, warm and steady. Hers moved into his hair, and he made a sound that seemed torn from somewhere old and lonely. When they parted, he buried his face against her shoulder. Not the poisoned embrace of memory. A new one. Chosen. Helena held him. He shuddered once, then let himself be held. Celeste's trial was private at first, then public. To many nobles had helped her hide. To many physicians had been bribed. To many men had benefited from calling Adrian mad. The court learned what had happened 6 years ago. The embrace, the needle, the poison, the deliberate ruin of a man made he need to fear the very thing he most needed. Some apologized. Most avoided him. Adrian preferred avoidance. But Blackmoor Hall changed. Not all at once. Healing rarely cared for theatrics. The West Wing opened. The music room stayed lit. A physician came once a week, and Adrian allowed examinations as long as Helena remained nearby, and everyone asked before touching. He began attending village meetings. At first, people stared at his gloves, then at his bare hands, then at Helena beside him. One old fisherman shook Adrian's hand after a storm repair meeting. The whole room went silent. Adrian froze. The old man seemed to realize too late. Helena stood across the room, watching, not rushing, not rescuing, only there. Adrian looked at the fisherman's hand in his. Weathered skin, salt roughness, no poison, no trap. He shook it once. The fisherman smiled. "Good to have you back, my lord." Adrian's throat tightened. "Thank you." That night, he found Helena in the garden. Spring had reached the cliffs. Barely. A few pale flowers had opened near the stone wall, trembling in sea wind. Helena knelt beside them, clearing weeds from the soil. "You will ruin your dress," Adrian said. She looked up. "It is a working dress. It is green. Green dresses can work. So you have said about many unreasonable things." She smiled. He loved that smile. The realization no longer frightened him the way it once had. It frightened him differently now, not as poison, as responsibility, as a future asking whether he could become gentle enough to deserve it. He knelt beside her, slowly, because his side still pulled in cold weather. Helena noticed. She pretended not to. He loved that too. "I received a letter from the king," he said, "about the trial. Celeste has confessed." Helena's hands stilled. "All of it. Enough. What happens now?" "She will be imprisoned. Her family lands seized where they were tied to the plot. The physicians who helped her will lose license and title." Helena nodded. "Good." Adrian looked at her. "You are fierce for a healer. Healing requires a strong dislike of harm." His mouth curved, then grew serious. "I also received another letter. Oh, the Royal Medical Council wants you back in the capital." She looked down at the flowers. "Yes, you knew. They wrote last week." His chest tightened. "And you did not tell me." "I was deciding." He nodded. Old fear rose, not as violently as before, but there, she might leave. She had every right. He would not stop her. He would not become a locked door. "What did you decide?" he asked. Helena brushed soil from her fingers. "I do not know." Honesty again. Painful. Precious. He looked toward the sea. "I want you to stay." She was quiet. He forced himself to continue. "But I will not ask you to give up your work because I learned how to hold your hand." Her face softened. "That is a good sentence. It took me all afternoon. I can tell." Despite the ache in his chest, he smiled. Then he reached into his coat and removed a folded paper. "What is that?" "A proposal." Helena's eyebrow lifted. "That word is dangerous. Not that kind." "Adrian." "Not yet." Her breath caught. He heard it. But he continued before hope or fear swallowed them both. "I have written to the council. I offered to fund a northern treatment house under your direction, here in Blackmoor village. War injuries, fevers, children, women, anyone the capital hospitals forget. You would answer to no husband, no lord, no military commander, only your own medical board." Helena stared at him. For once, she had no quick answer. Adrian placed the paper on the stone bench beside her. "If you want the capital, go. If you want the road, take it. If you want this, it is yours whether you choose me or not." Her eyes glistened. "That is a very unfair thing to say." "Why?" "Because it makes you difficult to leave." He swallowed. That was not the strategy. "No, no." She looked at him for a long time. Then she reached for his hand. He gave it immediately. "I do not know how to belong to a place," she said. "I have spent years leaving before people could need me too much." His thumb moved over her knuckles. I know, and I do not know how to love a man whose pain sometimes looks like anger. I know. You may still flinch. Yes, I may still run. Yes, she breathed out. But I want to stay long enough to find out what happens if we do neither. Adrian closed his eyes. Relief moved through him so fiercely that it hurt. When he opened them, Helena was smiling through tears. He lifted her hand to his mouth and kissed her fingers. "May I kiss you?" he asked. Yes. This kiss was soft, sunlit. The garden smelled of damp earth and salt wind. Helena's hands rested on his shoulders, and Adrian held her as if learning again that wanting did not have to become fear. When they parted, she touched his cheek. "You are getting better at asking. I practice constantly in my head. That sounds exhausting." "It is." She laughed. He kissed her laughter from her mouth. The Northern Treatment House opened before summer. They called it Ward House because Helena refused to let Adrian name it after himself, his mother, the king, or any dead general with a statue. The first patients arrived before the paint dried. Children with lung fever, fishermen with broken hands, women injured by husbands no one wanted to accuse, soldiers who woke screaming and apologized for bleeding on clean sheets. Helena ran the place like a battlefield tent with better windows. Adrian funded it, repaired it, and learned to carry water without looking like the bucket had insulted his lineage. The villagers began seeing him not as the cursed Earl, but as the quiet man who sat with fevered children when Helena ordered everyone else to sleep. Touch became part of his life slowly. A child grabbing his sleeve, Mr. Bell patting his shoulder in a moment of forgetfulness, then nearly fainting. Helena's hand at his back when he pushed her hard on cold mornings. Some touch still hurt, not physically, in memory. But now when it happened, Adrian did not lock himself away 4 days. He found Helena, or he found a lamp, or he found the sea. He returned. That was healing, not never breaking, returning. At the harvest festival, Blackmoor village gathered in the square for the first time since the war. There were lanterns, fiddles, spice cakes, and children running in dangerous circles around adults pretending not to enjoy it. Adrian stood at the edge of the square, watching. Helena came beside him. "You look like a man preparing for battle. There is dancing. A terrifying enemy. People touch during dancing. That is often the point." He glanced at her. She wore a simple blue dress, her hair pinned loosely, a few curls escaping around her face. He wanted to touch each one. The desire no longer felt like danger, only ache. "Dance with me," she said. His body tensed before his heart answered. She saw both. "We do not have to. I know. You can say no. I know." Adrian. He looked at her hand. Open. Waiting. A year ago, he would have seen a trap. 6 years ago, he would have seen a weapon. Now he saw Helena. He took her hand. The village noticed, then tried very hard to pretend it had not. The music began. Helena guided him into the first steps. He was stiff at first. Careful. Too careful. Then she smiled. "You are counting." "I count when nervous." "Good. Then count me in." "1," he said softly. "2," she answered. Pause. She laughed. He almost missed the step. Her hand tightened in his, not to correct, to keep him with her. They danced beneath lanterns, while the sea wind moved through the square. Adrian's hand rested at Helena's waist. Hers lay on his shoulder. People watched, but he did not feel displayed. He felt held in the world. When the music slowed, Helena stepped closer. "Still all right." He looked down at her. His old line. "Given back with love." "Yes." Then he bent and kissed her in the middle of the square. Gasps rose. Then cheers. Then Mr. Bell sobbing openly into a handkerchief with no dignity whatsoever. Adrian should have cared. He did not. Helena smiled against his mouth. "You have caused gossip. I am told this village needed entertainment. You were becoming insufferable. I had an excellent teacher." She laughed, and he held her closer. Months later, when autumn turned the cliffs gold, Adrian asked properly. Not in a ballroom, not before witnesses. In the music room at Blackmoor Hall, where the windows were open to the sea and The old piano had been tuned. Helena found him standing beside it with a ring in his hand and terror in his eyes. She stopped at the door. Oh, he looked at the ring, then at her. This is not a trap. Her mouth curved. A traditional opening. I had several speeches. What happened to them? They all sounded like men in books who had never cleaned a wound. Tragic. Yes. He stepped closer. Not too close. Never without letting her choose the final distance. I spent 6 years believing touch was the doorway through which betrayal entered. Then you came into my room, refused to be frightened properly, and taught me that a hand can also be a promise. Helena's eyes filled. Adrian, you gave me my life back, not by saving me from pain, but by staying while I learned how to live with it. I do not ask you to heal me forever. I do not ask you to belong to this house more than you belong to yourself. His voice trembled. I ask if you will let me spend my life choosing you with open hands. Helena crossed the room. She took the ring from his palm, then took his hand. Yes, he blinked. You did not let me kneel. You can kneel later if you feel dramatic. A laugh broke from him. Then she slid the ring onto her own finger and lifted her face. Now kiss me before you start another speech. He obeyed. Gladly. His hands framed her face. Her arms wrapped around his neck. The kiss was warm, deep, and full of all the years that had tried to teach them that love was unsafe. Love was unsafe, perhaps, but not because it wounded, because it changed the shape of survival. Adrian held Helena like a man no longer ashamed of needing to be held back. And in Blackmoor Hall, the lamp stayed lit long after midnight. Years later, people still spoke of the Earl of Blackmoor. They said he once hated touch. They said he dismissed doctors, frightened servants, and lived like a ghost in a house above the sea. They said a healer came in winter and refused to treat his fear like wickedness. They said he held her hand one night and would not let go. That part was almost true. He did let go. When she needed freedom, when she needed work, when she needed room to be more than his salvation. And because he learned to let go, Helena kept choosing to return. In the mornings, she ran Ward House. In the evenings, he walked her home through the cliff garden. Sometimes his hand found hers first. Sometimes hers found his. Sometimes neither of them reached. And that was fine too. Touch was no longer a demand. It was a language. And every day, in small, ordinary ways, they learned to speak it without fear.